asking, what were you sober from?
Okay, at the beginning, when I was in my teens, it was alcohol, and it
Mhm.
eventually became my drug of choice was actually pills. They're not around anymore, but they were barbiturates.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not even around anymore. They were
Would that,
sleeping. They were like sleep. They were basically sleeping pills back then, but it made you feel like you were drunk.
would that be similar to a Quaalude?
Much
Sim
stronger, but yes, it's sort of in that family.
okay. Yeah. Yeah. My only point of reference I have to it, not to make light of this, is they talk about it extensively on The Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Oh
But
yeah,
that's my only point of reference where it's like where they extensively talk about it. So
correct. Yeah.
yeah. What would you describe um, as your lowest moment when you weren't sober? Did you feel like you had one?
Oh yeah, at the very end, everything went wrong. Right before I went, when I went into treatment, I weighed 105 pounds. I, yeah, I had what they called the barroom tan, which is like that yellow color when you get jaundice.
Wow.
I was getting seizures all the time. I had four DWIs. Right after my fourth one in New Jersey, they came out with the three strikes and you're outlaw, where
Yeah.
three times you had to go to jail. So I didn't have to do any of that. I lucked out with that.
Wow.
I had also lost my wife and my daughter due to my addiction. So that was, I can't think of anything much lower than what I went through at the very end there.
I'm sorry to hear about that. Could you give me an analogy, or better yet, could you give me an analogy, or could you describe your addiction and its effect on your life?
Oh, so when I was growing up, I was a fairly smart kid,
Mhm.
probably a little bit above average. I went to college. I didn't finish college, but when I came out of college, I started off as an accountant. Then it went down to an inventory control. Then it went to a parts person, and by the end, I was unemployable. I would be working for 2 or 3 days and then lose the job. So it basically took everything from me.
Man.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest thing that you learned on your path to sobriety, if you could give a small thing?
Not to do it, of
Yeah.
course, never to get that bad. But I mean, looking at when you're in the middle of a tornado, you don't see anything. You know
Right.
what I mean? So at that time, I just called it partying. That's what me and all my friends called it, was just partying. And it was like a anchor on my neck. You know what I mean? By the end, what I was calling partying was going to buy the pills, coming home, and just staying in all day. That was partying. It went from like a bunch of fun times to just miserable times pretty quickly.
Mm. So you've been doing this in a sense, you've been alcohol and mental health, you've been doing this for about 40 years, correct?
I've been in the field for 42 years.
Wow.
I started off like most of us do that go into the field as a counselor tech, helping counselors, taking urines from clients and things like that. I liken it to a barber shop that hires a new barber, and the barber for the first year sweeps the hair
Right.
and washes the hair. So it's the same in our field. So the first year or two, I was a counselor tech. I eventually got certified. That's all there was back then, certification, not licensure. And then I became a counselor. Then I became a clinical director, then an executive director. I owned my first facility in 1987, and it was for adolescents and their families in Bergen County, New Jersey. I kept going, up and up. In 2000, they finally came out with licensure in New Jersey for these centers. Before that, there was no licensing, believe it or not. And what I did at that point, I started helping places get licensed. And I would stay on for a year, maybe 2 years as the executive director, and I'd go on to the next project. In 2010, let me regress for a minute.
No.
In 1990, managed care really came into play in the insurance industry, and They started cutting out a lot of treatment for people that went inpatient. They likened inpatient for drug and alcohol to hospital stays. So, years and years ago, if you went in to the hospital to have a baby, you were there a week. Now it's overnight and they throw you out. That's
Right.
basically what they do with drug and alcohol. So instead of getting 28 days of treatment, they started
Mhm.
giving them 3 and 4 days only. And then they
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that
save
is?
out. It was to save money. Insurance companies, they wanted to save money putting people inpatient. In Florida, it was actually the first place they almost cut out inpatient altogether. So what the recovering community did down there, they had these outpatients that they knew people couldn't just stay sober. Most of them couldn't stay sober outpatient. But if you remember in Florida, they had those little L motels from the 50s, and these centers bought the L motels. And what they did, they transferred them every day over to their outpatient center. And that became the new norm. It's called the Florida model. And what they found out was that the clients liked it a lot better because they had more freedom. They went back to the housing at night and they would take them out to AA meetings and NA meetings. The clients weren't stuck in one building anymore for 28 days. Um, what happened with treatment people, though, it's 10 times harder to
Right.
watch the clients because they had to watch them at the center, at house.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they took them on outings, they had to
Right.
watch them.
Right.
It
Yeah.
became much more intensive. But that became sort of in 2010, the first one came up to New Jersey, and I was the executive director of that. I had come from a treatment center in Irvington, New Jersey, an inner city place. We had 150 Medicaid clients. And when the person who owned the center asked me to join this new Florida model treatment, I asked him how many people were there. He said 8. And I laughed at him. I said, 8, that's nothing. I got to tell you, those were the hardest 8 patients I've ever had to treat. They had them in different houses. We had to watch them everywhere they went. Um, they didn't have much gratitude. The inner city people had a lot of gratitude when they got better. Um, but that became the new normal. And actually, in New Jersey, they've grown a lot in the last 16 years. They've made them a lot better. And that I sort of do a lot of that now. I do consulting now, and I sort of help people start those, or I help them clinically with it, or even marketing sometimes.
How would you like to see the system improved if you could change, if you could really have your hands in things as far as like legislation wise? What are some things kind of holding you back that makes your job harder? Some things you'd like to see improved?
Okay, I will say I've started treatment centers all over the country for one of my past employers. We had 9 centers across the country. And
Great.
I got to tell you, the two hardest states, New Jersey and Pennsylvania,
Why is that?
the regulatory
Mm,
stuff is tough. They take forever to come out. Um, New Jersey is a big state for treatment because there's a lot
mhm.
of people here that need treatment. There's a lot of out of network benefits. So a lot of the treatment centers from Florida came up here. The problem is it used to take 30, 60 days to get licensed. Now it's taken 2 years because
Oof.
the state doesn't have enough workers to do 200 new centers and then also visit every center for their annual visits once a year. So they're always backed up down there. It's very, very difficult.
Mm.
Yeah, it takes a long time now.
That's for 2 years. That's a long, man. That's
Yeah, and the people that are going for these licenses actually have to sit there with a building. They have to have a staff, for 2 years of nothing coming in. So it's discouraged a lot of people as well.
mm, yeah, that's a shame. So when you started working in the industry. It was the 80s, correct?
Yeah, I think I got into the field like 1983.
Okay, 1983. So as far as sobriety wise, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, different eras, different drugs.
Sure.
How do you see addiction in treatment? Is it about the same as when you started? Is it completely different? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? You've seen all through these decades. What do you see now as compared to when you first started?
It's a lot more mental health now, a
Mhm.
lot. and mental health has been integrated. Every treatment center now needs to have a mental health component, or it just doesn't work.
I agree.
I think I think the drugs, naturally through the years, drugs have changed. In the
For sure.
late 90s, it was cocaine. Then
Right.
it was heroin again. Now it's fentanyl and, things like stuff that could kill you in one shot. So I think the drugs
Right.
are much more dangerous. I think treatment, um, I'm an old timer. I'm a dinosaur in the field.
Right.
Everybody will tell you that. I sort of like the old way. I think the more treatment you can have, the better. And the insurance companies really have cut it down a lot. So these treatment centers, a lot of times, only get people for 28, even less days. Um, so it's hard. They took a poll years ago from major doctors and psychiatrists. How long do you think people should be in treatment?
I was just gonna ask you that. I was getting ready to ask you. I was like, it's 28, like realistically, 28.
No,
I was gonna say 28 days. I'm like,
it's nothing. Yeah,
right,
they
yeah.
they said a year.
I
That
was gonna say that sounds about, yeah, that would seem, and even then, that still could be in some instances not enough. But I'm like, 28 days. I'm like,
Yeah.
that good.
Well,
Yeah.
what they've done now, I mean, to be fair, it's 28 days secluded in a treatment center, 21 to 28 days secluded in a treatment center. But then they have, when you get out, there's aftercare. So
Right.
usually you go down what they call a level of care. You go down from inpatient to either partial care, which is 5 days a week, or down to IOP, which is intensive outpatient, 3 days a week for 3 hours a night. So you do have more treatment, but what they asked the psychiatrists and the doctors, how long do you think they should be secluded? And it was a year.
I agree.
Yeah. So and I get that. I mean, a lot of people that come into us, it's a lot of relapsing. Um,
Yeah.
People ask what success rates are of treatment centers.
Hmm.
And if the people did what they were supposed to do, it'd be 100% because the first thing treatment centers teach you is don't drink or use and go to meetings. It's like a prescription. There's like 15,
Right.
20 things. And what happens is people go out and they don't do it. No relationships in the first year. There's a bunch of things. Don't go around people, places, and things. And they do them. And then, is that the treatment center's fault? The answer is obviously no. But there's also bad treatment centers out there too.
So I know you just mentioned family or maybe a support system. Is that probably the biggest indicator whether somebody's going to relapse or not if they don't have any type of support system outside of you guys?
Yeah, well, so behind all the psychological reasons there are out there, people basically go to a treatment center for one of two reasons. They either see the light or they feel the heat.
Ooh.
90% of them come in,
Ooh.
they feel the heat. It's either the family, it's legal, it's their health, it's the job. Something pressures people to come in. Not everybody comes in because they want to, or they wake up,
Right.
had an epiphany, geez, I want to get sober today. Most of them come because there's outside forces
Mm.
putting them in. So the first time people come in, they could be resentful about that. You know what I
For
mean?
sure.
Yeah. But after they start, being there for a while, they start seeing the benefits of being sober.
How do you deal with a person who's maybe resentful or maybe doesn't think that they have a problem, or maybe they kind of say that, hey, you guys don't understand. You kind of have it all wrong. It's like you don't understand. How do you deal from that angle? How do you deal with them that way?
Well, listen, there's people that wear their program or treat people in their program like a sweater. Some people like their sweaters tight, some people like their sweaters loose. I'm the type of person when I treat somebody, I use a lot of humor, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
sarcasm. If I find I'm not getting through to somebody, I bring in other members of the staff whose personality I think. I mean, there's people who come in and they're serious as anything, like
Right.
they professionalism, they might not respond to me real well. But
Right.
whenever I hire my staff, I try to hire staff that can be funny, could be
Mm-hmm.
mean, not mean, but like strict. I bring in people that are holistic, that the people
That's
that come
good.
in are looking for like meditation, things like that.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's not one fix for everybody. It
For
really,
sure.
yeah.
For sure. I think that even goes even far as to when we see in health, like we have, there's however many diets that you hear about, right? And I think one of the things that I see that can be kind of harmful, they'll say that there's only one true way to, I'm like, for some people are going to be able to go vegan. Some people aren't. Some people go do vegetarian. Some people carnivore, the diets that they work. Some people are pescatarian. Some, it's a mixture of all. But I agree with it completely, saying that it's this one size fits all. If they don't fit in, I think there has to be, it
Yeah.
has to have some room, not to wiggle, but it has to fit that person. So for sure, I just yeah.
Yeah. When I first, so being an old timer, um, I'm from the old school of, go to meetings, don't
Mm-hmm.
drink, don't use anything, go to meetings. Over the course of the years, things have changed. They've come out with medicines for treatment that work for some people. I'm talking about things like Suboxone, methadone. I
Yep.
don't. I never really tell people to do that first. I think they should try to do it. Total abstinence. I really.
Right.
I think they should try total abstinence a couple times till it clicks. If it doesn't, Suboxone is out there. They have, things for alcohol now, medicines for alcohol. I haven't really told you this, but I lost my son from this
Oh,
disease
wow. Sorry to
years
hear that.
ago, and he was sober for a while. So if you ask me now what I would do for him,
Mm-hmm.
if he wanted to go on methadone or Suboxone, even though I didn't like it, if it would have kept him alive, that's what was needed. And it breaks my heart every day about that. But
Sure.
he was sober for a while, and one day he used something that was laced with fentanyl, and he died.
Yeah.
20, the kid was only 27 years old, so I mean that's young. But so I'm the type of person that anything to keep your kid alive, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
For sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate you for sharing that. I had a friend of mine who died, but he was 24. It's happened a while, about 10 years ago, but he was in, I'm not going to say where the treatment facility, but he was in a treatment facility, substance abuse, but he actually, he hung himself, but it was in a thing of where they were understaffed.
Yeah,
So they didn't have enough people to monitor things, which they should have been,
yeah,
but they could only find him when he was, had bed sheets and stuff like that. They found him. They said it looked like somebody was taking a nap standing up. But again, it's in the thing that a lot of these things are very understaffed, but it goes into like what you were saying earlier, in the sense of that this all needs to be linked together. Like if you think you're only going to do treatment and not have the mental health aspect of it, and not be able to have a world, like having people who can be funny, who can be serious, and not have it well rounded, you're taking these individual parts and you're going to wonder why stuff like this happens. And it's like, okay, you got to look
yeah.
at the whole picture.
So I'm glad you said that because a lot of times, especially with the Florida model where the people are at housing at night, they're only with their counselors a couple hours a day,
Yeah,
who really keeps these people sober. And I'm giving a shout out to all of them because they deserve it. They're the
as you
ones
should.
that get blamed for everything, but they're the ones who really talk to these people and get them sober. Are the techs at housing and
Mm-hmm.
people that are with them all the time. That 2 o'clock in the morning they're talking to them. Um,
Right. Exactly.
those are so important. Those people. Um, I have I have somebody who I always use if I can for housing. He's like the nicest guy in the world. He's got the best temperament. He never gets loud. He never gets too low. He's rules oriented, so he's very good like that. He's the perfect person to talk to clients at night, and he's actually saved a lot of people from leaving AMA. Leaving the treatment center against medical advice or whatever, or eloping off the unit. He's big for that. So it's not just the counselors. You really need
Right.
to have the best people all the way around because a good tech would have stopped that stuff. We
Right.
and they're the ones who would know that right away, and they report to the counselors in the morning about people's things they're going through at nighttime.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Keeps them alive. I think that's what it is. They're waiting to maybe they might not be able to be seen until the next morning. So let's say they don't fall asleep until 1 o'clock. So 1 o'clock to let's say 6 or 7 a lot can happen during that time. So
Yeah. Well, our guys, just so you know, we do what they call Q. It depends how long the people have been there. Q30s or Q15s, which means our techs go into the rooms every 15 minutes if they think it's going to be the person's like depressed or something
right.
happened. But normally every 30 minutes they go in to make sure the person's breathing, they're okay, they're sleeping well, because that's when that stuff happens that you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah. So, and all the, to be honest with you, 99% of the treatment centers are good with that. Are some of them like understaffed? And yes.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the Medicaid clients that when they go to treatment, they don't have enough to staff, you know, enough people at nighttime to do that because they just don't make that much money. So I sort of get that. I don't agree with it, but I sort of get that. But most treatment centers are good like that. They have, you know, they have, I guess, what I'm eyes on the people 24/7. That's the
Mm-hmm.
best way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. If you were say if I'm a person who is either struggling with addiction or mental, well, I shouldn't say addiction or because it probably goes hand in hand. It's probably it's all connected. But let's say I'm struggling with trying to stay sober. I don't really know where to go. Let's say I may not have much. What would you say the first step I would take in 2026? What should I do?
Okay, so if you wake up and you decide to do that for yourself, I would say go on the internet. You can go to I think it's New Jersey is 211 where they can point you to places. SAMHSA, which is a big organization, a national organization. They have treatment centers. Uh, Everybody registers with SAMHSA, so they know all the treatment centers and all the states and everything. You probably, if you have insurance, you're probably going to check around, you know, because there's different type of insurances. There's in network where you have to go where they tell you to go, the insurance company. There's out of network, which is where you can go basically anywhere. There's Medicaid approved places. There's not Medicaid approved places. Same with Medicare. Same with veterans insurance. So it's a little bit more complicated. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's a little bit more complicated. The system made it that way. But if you call up SAMHSA, they'll give you all the stuff in your area. Unfortunately, I don't, if you went right now on your internet and put
Mm-hmm.
drug and alcohol facilities near me,
Mm-hmm.
find them near you. It'll the top 3 or 4 will say Florida, California,
Right.
Ohio, Texas, because that's how Google works.
Right.
Yeah, they put whoever gets the most hits at the top. So I would still put that in, but you'd have to look down in your area if you want to stay in your area. You'd have to go down 6 or 7 levels.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the different eras, obviously we said different drugs, different challenges. More so in the '90s, what did you see kind of more so problems that were unique to that time period? Was mental health probably wasn't brought up at all during that time, or was it kind of more so an afterthought?
Um, it seems like there's a lot more mental health today.
For
Uh,
sure.
a lot of it is cause of my generation. You know, our kids. You know, we were using, so the kids got messed up. I think that the pandemic had a lot to do with what's going on with mental health now with some of the people. I just think mental health was never really looked at as much as it is now. Now it's
Mhm.
like, you know, every facility has a mental health component to it.
Right.
It wasn't like that years ago. It just wasn't. We would treat what they call dual diagnosis or co-occurring. Somebody had a drug and alcohol problem, but they might have depression with it. But really, there wasn't a lot of work being done with that now. Now I see a lot of the clients going in and they're being put in the mental health side first. Um,
Wow.
but I, I have a I actually have a good illustration of the importance of both of them.
Absolutely.
Um, so if you have addiction and you
Hmm.
have mental health, think of it like a house, and you have two fires in it. You have alcohol, the fires in the kitchen, and you get another mental health, the fires in the upstairs bedroom. What happens if you only put out one fire? The
Wow.
house still burns down, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You got to put out both fires. So you got to treat the mental health with the drug and alcohol. And it's never been more prevalent as it is now to do that.
No, I think that is literally, I can see it. That's a perfect analogy, man. That is
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's even too, I think the mental health, I think it's still very new in the sense of saying within the past 15 years. 15,
Yeah.
I'd even say probably in the two, I've never heard the term used more. Like I was never a thing I heard used in high school. When I was in
Right.
school and stuff, like I never heard that term. Like we knew what it was, but it's not like now it's like a everyday thing. Like you hear it on your job, you hear people saying mental health days and stuff like that. I was like, so I
Right.
still a fairly new thing. Would you say that as far as the mental health with sobriety and stuff, it was always there? This is just kind of the opportunity for it to kind of just kind of the problem just kind of just bursted through, just kind of down the line.
Yeah. Yes. The short answer to that is yes, but I think it's just gotten worse.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, probably the last 8 to 10 years, it's been more pronounced in our field. We're
Right.
finding more and more of it. Um, in New Jersey, there's actually two separate licenses, which makes it tough. So there's a drug and alcohol license, and then there's the mental health license. Right now, I know what the state's trying to do is what they're trying to do is combine the two and make it a new license. So people don't have to go out and get two licenses. But it's always the way when there's something new coming in, they never do it right away, and eventually it'll become right. But it's always been separate. It's always
Mm-hmm.
been separate, and there's no reason why it should be.
Right. As far as the technology that we have now, so people going to meetings would doing it over Zoom count, or do you actually have to be in person? Is that how things work nowadays, or no?
Well, with AA, if you're talking about outside meetings or if you're talking about counseling meetings, yeah, there's a lot of telehealth with counseling, like one-on-one counseling. Some people do it with small groups too. I don't have a problem with that. I do think they need to go to the office and they have to get urines taken.
Oh,
Uh,
for sure.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't think just telehealth is good for anybody. But if you're talking about AA meetings, I think when people get out of treatment, the most important thing AA does for you is not so much therapy, because there really isn't a lot there. It's you know, people helping each other. I think it's the conviviality or the sociability of
Yeah.
making new friends who are
Yeah.
sober. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Doing things, with new people so you don't go back to people, places, and things.
Hmm.
I think that's the most important thing. My first year in recovery was my favorite. I
Really?
Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah, because it was all new back then.
Hmm.
Me and three friends, we started NA in New Jersey, up in Summit, New Jersey, and then people from different parts of the state started coming to meetings, and we helped them start, like in Toms River and Passaic and
Hmm.
Bergen
Yeah.
County, and then we had a softball league with
That's
them.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, my first year was meeting a lot of people. Whenever I go through anything bad, my son, good example. I've had cancer, kidney cancer, and then I've had a kidney transplant. All that stuff, people ask me how I got through that. And it was really because my first year in recovery. All the people I met, I've had friends for 42 years in there. Everybody I hang out with, my work, my meetings, it's all around recovery. And,
Right.
so that's what got me through everything. I always go back to my first year in recovery.
Wow. That's beautiful. I think it's interesting that people always say that, the whole thing of being the sum of the five people you hang around with, I think it's even more pronounced, especially in sobriety. Like whenever you're trying to do something, if you have somebody who's pulling you a different way, it's not going to work. But if your sobriety depends on it, no one would ever tell anyone and say, hey, I'm trying to be sober, but I'm still going to hang out with the guys in college who every weekend we used to get blackout drunk. No
Right.
one would ever be like, you can just hang around them a little bit. It'll be fine or something. I'm like, the odds that you probably are going to just be like, hey, what the heck? It's around that you're going to probably do it again. It's just, I don't see, you're kind of, you're tempting yourself to where it's like, it doesn't, you don't need to tempt something that you're already trying to fight. You know what I mean?
Whenever I get a guy in treatment, they always say, "Listen, I'm going to hang out with my old friends.
Mm-hmm.
I won't drink. I'll have a ginger ale. I'll be around my old friends that smoke pot. I won't smoke. I'll do clove cigarettes or whatever." I always tell them the same thing. You might not die the first time you go around your
Right.
friends or you go around using, but it's like kryptonite to Superman. You get weaker and you get weaker and you get weaker. And
Mm-hmm.
then one day, all of a sudden, okay, I'll just take a sip. I'll take one drink. I'll smoke one joint. And all of a sudden, it's like this. There, things are getting worse again because the disease is progressive. It gets worse even when you're not using.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. So that's one of the defining things about the disease. It's progressive. So that means is okay. I've been sober 44 years. If I go back to using, it won't happen day one. But if I go back to using in a very short amount of time, I won't be starting over. I'll be just as bad as if I never stopped using. So the consequences would come that hard. So that's what progression means. That's why it's incurable. That's why people got to go to meetings. That's what makes it incurable is the progression.
I've never actually had anyone describe it that way. I didn't know.
Yeah,
I had no idea that's what it was, or where you're not starting from day one. You're starting from 15 years. You just took a little break, but as soon as you plug it back in,
it's like you never.
I had no idea. Wow, that would make sense though. There was a I don't know if you've ever seen HBO, like the old HBO shows, like on like The Wire, Boardwalk
Yeah,
Empire and stuff. So, rest in peace, Michael K. Williams, the guy who played Omar on The Wire, who had
yeah.
the scar on his face. So
Hmm.
unfortunately, he passed. I think was it might have been I think 5 or 6 years ago. He was I think a heroin addict or maybe it was something. It might be pills. If I'm wrong, somebody please please correct me. But I know he stopped, or maybe it was during his acting he kept going, but he stopped for a while. But then I think just one time, man, I think just overdose, man, and it was just that was it. Been
Yeah.
clean for a while too, and just quit. Yeah.
There was a movie out in the 1950s, so it's even
Mm-hmm.
predates me a little bit, but I did see it when I was younger. It was called Days of Wine and Roses. It was with Jack Lemmon, and
Okay.
I forgot the woman's name. And they were a boyfriend and girlfriend, but they were both alcoholics. And what would happen, they would both stay sober a while. One would start using, then the other one. And then this one would
Mm.
go back to sobriety, and then this one. But they showed Jack Lemmon, I guess after like 6 or 7 months, he was sober. He went to the bar and had one drink, and he was on the ground and blacking out and seeing the hallucinating. It doesn't happen that quite that quick, but it made a point about progression that if the disease is progressive and it gets bad. Yeah, the three things about the disease is it's chronic, which means it's ongoing, it's progressive, and it's fatal, and it's incurable. Because it's progressive, it's incurable. That's why people tell you one day at a time. We arrest it one day at a time.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
you're talking about.
My mind is blown. I did not know that at all. That is, wow, that changes, yeah, that changes completely how I look at it. But I mean, there's no way for me to know, but wow, that is a mind blowing perspective. So your kidney transplant,
Yeah.
what caused it? What caused, the kidneys?
Okay. So it's a little bit of a story.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so in '87, I had an adolescent program I told you about, and the kids we were very tight back then. Parents came 3 times a week with us. We used to do dances with the parents and the kids. We took them camping. We did skiing, which I'm terrible at.
Hmm.
So it was a very tight community. So over the years, that's 87 is, I don't know how many years goes out, 40 years ago, 38 years ago, whatever it is. Um, a lot of the kids and their parents have kept in touch with me. Um, some of the kids now are in 55 and older places. That's how old they are now. They were 16 and 17 back then.
Nice.
But one of the parents we were very close with, we'll put her aside for a minute. In 2000, I was doing karate with my son,
Hmm.
and I had to go for a blood test for an insurance thing, and they had to do a sonogram, and they found the tumor. So they had to take the kidney, the tumor, and a rib out. The tumor was so big.
Oh, wow.
So 20 years go by now. I go to take blood tests, and my other kidney's dying. So it was during COVID. Um, so they told me I needed a kidney transplant. So when you need a kidney transplant, you have to go through all these tests, your lungs, your heart, your brain, because they don't want you dying from something else.
Right.
They want to give you a kidney if you're dying from something else. So you have to go
Right.
through these tests. Because it was COVID, it took 3 months. At the very end of my last day, they said, "Okay, you're going to be on the list now. In New Jersey, it's a 5 to 8 year wait." So I said, "Okay, I got 5 to 8 years to wait." That Tuesday, my wife happened to call this parent who we kept in touch with. My wife became very good friends with her. They moved to Florida, and she was in the program. And she just happened to call her that day. And this woman, Kathy is her name, Kathy said, I can't talk long. One of the people I'm sponsoring, a girl, is dying. She was an alcoholic. She never did drugs, and somebody gave her fentanyl.
Oh,
I'm going to visit her. They're going to take her off the machine. So my wife just happened to say, "Well, listen, ask them to put Frank's name if they're gonna they donate anything, put Frank's name with them. Maybe he'll move up on the list." That was Tuesday about 4 o'clock. Wednesday, my phone's ringing off the hook, 7 a.m. I answered, and it's St. Barnabas Hospital saying it was a perfect match. You need to get in here today. So here I thought I had 5 to 8 years before I had this major operation. So it was the COVID at the time. So my wife couldn't go into the hospital. I went there, and when I checked in that day, it was December 17th of 2020. It was a nor'easter up here. It was snowing.
oh, oh my God.
They only have 24 hours to get the kidney. It was in Florida. They only have 24 hours to get the kidney up to you. And the snow, I looked outside, the snow's going sideways. All the cars are parked all weird that were stuck in the parking lot. I said, it's never going to get here. I stood overnight. The next day came. 12 o'clock, I'm talking to my wife. I said, it's not going to get here. They only got like 2 more hours. They came in with it. All the airports were closed. They got the kidney up there. So I got the kidney transplant. Um, the woman,
Man.
the woman was a beautiful woman. She was only 50 years old. She had two kids in their 20s. So when I got out of the hospital, I wrote them a nice letter, your mother's my hero, anything I could ever do for you. So she was cremated in Florida, but her kids lived up here in Jersey. So
Wow.
because it was bad weather, it was COVID, they waited until the summer to bring the mother's ashes up to New Jersey. They invited me and my wife to they were burying the ashes next to her mother, and they invited me and my wife. We went to the funeral, to the graveyard, and when I went there, the father was rubbing my stomach. He started crying.
Mhm.
But a trillion to one shot that my wife happened to call Kathy to even say, "Hey, what's going on?" For Kathy to say, "I'm on my way to the hospital," and for it to be a perfect match. Everybody I know says, "Well, you help people and things like that. Maybe that's why it happened." Um, I just know that, at that particular time, God was with me. The
Sure.
story, I'm telling it's a billion to probably even a
No, yeah.
one
Yeah,
shot.
that's not happening. The snow, I'm like, yeah, they got about at 2 hours. There's no wind. There's no.
Yeah, everything just happened to align right. So I something I never knew. They don't put the kidney in the back where the old kidney was. They put it in front because it's closer to your bladder. Uh,
Oh, I don't know that.
So, I mean, listen, she saved my life. The girl, her name was Christine, who passed. She saved my life. Our friend Kathy, I'll always be very grateful to her. Um, I was alone in the hospital. It was COVID. Nobody was allowed there. The nurses came in with masks on. So it was a trillion to one shot, but very grateful, for everybody helping me. And that goes back to my first year in recovery too, having faith that, I'd get through it. I thought I had 5 to 8 years. I already had one less kidney. If something went wrong with the operation, I was done for. So
Right.
I thought I had 5 to 8 years to wait for that freak out moment. Happy to be that day. So, a lot, not just bad things happen to you, good things do too.
For sure. Would you say before then you believed in miracles or not really?
Well, I see miracles all the time in the field. I
Hmm.
see people that when I looked at them and I thought they were going to die in detox and, here they are with 17, 20 years in recovery. So they're miracles. All those people that go through that stuff, they're miracles. There's people that massive car accidents, just horrible stuff happened to them and they got sober and, they're doing fine. These kids I was telling you about, that was in my program, that were 16, 17 year old. They were on the way to like a lot of bad stuff. There were different things in that day, but they were on their way to maybe dying from this disease too. There are a couple of them that got very, very wealthy. A lot of them work in the schools. A lot of them became counselors. So to me, they're miracles.
Sure.
More so, what happened to me was just like a trillion to one shot. But to me, they're miracles. More so to me.
Yeah. Do you ever think of writing a book or something on it or some type of biopic or something on it? I think,
Yeah, you know what I actually wanted to do lately is like, and I don't know how to start it, so it's like
right.
podcasts or YouTube things
Yeah,
on
man. That's crazy.
recovery. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
don't know how to do it, so I've been asking. I just started asking people about it. But since yeah, I was pretty high up in the field, you know what I mean? So I know all the owners of the treatment center. I could bring
Yeah.
people on, I could bring clients on, I could
For a
bring
documentary or something, I was like, yeah, that's a
doctors,
big story.
and family members. So that's the project I'm going to start working on.
I believe it because you see stuff like that all the time on if it's not Netflix or something like that, where you have these documentaries where people, even if it's not a TV show or if it's a podcast or something, you bring people in.
Yeah,
These are the stories people get to hear. A lot of people out there who are only, and this, who are kind of not kind of who are actually hopeless. And
right.
like, man, it's like, that little bit of maybe it could happen for me. And they're just finding out in the medical community, just that type of thinking could
Yeah,
actually influence somebody from being healthy, can actually do things, can actually do things for them. Or just figuring out, how much the mind and body. But I think it's very important as well for, at least for me, but I know for people to hear is that this is a disease. And
oh yeah,
the progressive part, I never knew that it was I didn't even register with me.
yeah. When you see people who are in the center, and we see people come back in like 6, 8 months later, they always tell you, well, it got 10 times worse. I lost my job that I had with the good insurance. My parents threw me out. Whatever consequences there are, they just get worse. They just get worse. The other thing too, just to get this in quickly, a lot of
Absolutely.
people that started to use in their teenage years and their early 20s, and when they do get sober, they don't have a direction because they weren't able to go to college. They were too messed
Mhm.
up to go to college. They wasted those particular years. And what I tell them is, listen, just stay sober a year, and we hire people as techs a year or two. And that could start your career too. So it's also, if they stay sober and they could come into the field and they can get licensed and things like that. So there's a lot of things that staying sober can get you. It's not just repairing all your old things that went wrong in your life, there's also a life in there too if you need it.
Right. Uh, that was when so as far as the kidney failure, did you have any symptoms to where like were you in pain? Did you you had no kind of
Not,
inkling that and it just no
not
idea.
for either kidney, I had absolutely no symptoms. Absolutely, I didn't. Well, put it this way: I might have had symptoms. I didn't feel anything. The
Right.
first one, it was right on the edge of bursting into the kidney thing. And once it does that, it goes through your bloodstream. Your bloodstream, you're dead. I know somebody, a couple people that happened to it. Once it goes into your kidney, it goes to your heart, it goes to your lungs, it goes
Yeah.
everywhere. So I got it right before it was encapsulated, right before it broke into it, and then the other one was just dying. And no, I didn't feel anything from either one of them. Blood tests caught it,
That's
well,
crazy.
both of them. Yeah.
Did they tell you how much time, like theoretically, they would say you might have had a week or two or a day or something left before? Did they were they able to tell you how much time you would have had before that could have potentially happened, or would it happen at any moment?
Any moment for the first one. The
Really?
second, yeah, the second one, there's a test called the GFI, and
Mm-hmm.
person, their GFI is 60. Anything below 15 is considered chronic kidney. You're going to die if you don't do some. I was at 11 with that one, and I didn't even know it. I didn't think there was any.
15's the normal.
No, 60.
Oh,
15,
six, oh, Jesus.
yeah,
Oh,
15. If you hit
15.
15, you're in like horrendous. You're horrendous.
Oh,
I
wow.
was at 11 with that one. So for the 3 months it took me to get the kidney, when I had to get all those tests, I was on like the worst diet in the world. I couldn't eat anything. They didn't even good stuff like fruit and vegetables. They didn't want you to have. They didn't want you to have anything with potassium because that's how they found out it's bad. Your potassium goes way up. So I didn't know anything. I felt normal. If I just didn't go get that blood test, I wouldn't be here right now. Yeah, God's been good to me like that. You know what I mean? He's been
Yeah.
out of the fire at the last moment. So
Wow. Mind blown. Almost all the questions I was yeah, oh, so when you were that process of waiting for a kidney, were you kind of coming to terms with, hey, this could potentially be it? Or did you not really try to stay away from that type of thinking?
well, getting it happened so quick. At the end, like I said, it was only a couple days after the testing. But during testing, um, I was starting to more than worry, I guess would be a better way to put it, that I'd have to do what's that stuff where you have to go 3 days a week?
Oh, dialysis?
Dialysis. That
Dialysis?
that was going to happen next.
Mhm.
Uh, if I had to wait any length of time, dialysis was going to happen. And that bothered me a little bit because I hear people that try to do it at home. That sometimes they get infections. So you have to go to this place for, I think it's 3 or 4 hours a day, 3 or 4 days a week. And, my lifestyle just wouldn't like that at all. Not that I'm real active, but I move around a lot. So that was starting to worry, but I guess I never really thought of death. I'm sure it was there. Um, I just don't think like that. I just think, oh, I'm going to be hassled. It's going to be a pain in the neck. I'm going to have to do this other thing that I don't want to do. Um, so yeah, I never really. I'm not the type that I guess thinks about death a lot. Although I'm older now, I am. But it's more. I would have been inconvenienced for years and years doing
For
dialysis.
sure.
I
Yeah.
feel for people. And they say, I don't know if you ever heard this, that if you go on dialysis for like a length of time and you get your kidney transplant, it's very painful because dialysis shrinks your bladder. And
Oh,
when you get the thing, you have to pee all the time. And it's very painful for some of the people because their bladder isn't used to peeing a lot anymore. So I never heard that, but they told me at the
makes
hospital.
sense.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's always something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I
Always.
haven't heard that. Yeah. But no, I do thank you for stopping by. Is there any last message that you would like to give or anything you would like to say to the audience before? Wrap the show up.
Listen, it's sort of redundant. You've heard it a million times. If you have a problem or you know somebody that has a problem, this disease is fatal.
Yeah.
Kill you. It kills people. And I think that a lot of, especially people that use alcohol, don't realize that the worst drug for your body is alcohol. It affects all your organs, it affects your bones. Don't get me wrong, fentanyl and heroin will kill you quicker, but alcohol over the course of time is the worst drug for your body.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a problem, reach out to somebody.
Put it better myself. And if the people wanted to get in touch with you, how could they contact you? How can they find you? If you want to be found.
Yeah, no, listen, I'll try to help anybody I can. You can call me. You want me to give the phone number
If
now?
whatever you feel comfortable giving up.
Yeah, it's fine with me. 908-400-8606. And my name is Frank. And you could tell me that you saw me on the show. That'd be awesome. I'd love to hear from you.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for stopping by. It's
Oh,
been a
thank
pleasure.
you for having me.
Absolutely.